Well, welcome back. Today we are making my famous brownies. I'm not kidding. Every time that I have shared this recipe, it becomes all of my friends, all of the people that I know, it becomes their brownie recipe too. And then whenever I have brownies that someone else has made, I always go, wow, this is such a good recipe. What recipe is this? And 100% of the time they say, it's your recipe. That's how good it is. Even I think it's the best brownie recipe when I'm tasting it blind. I'm going to show you how I make my brownie recipe today, so I'm going to write the recipe on the screen, grab a pencil and paper, and I'm going to try to explain things if there's anything different or interesting or weird about it in a voiceover, so just enjoy me making these brownies. You can see the recipe right there in the top corner of the screen is the most worn out recipe. It's because I make it all the time and I've been making it for years. I am going to leave the recipe on the screen that is for a single batch, which goes into an 8x8 or a 9x9 pan. In this video, I'm actually quadrupling the recipe, so pay attention to what's written on the screen and not what I'm doing. Something I have learned about making brownies is that when you're blending your ingredients, one, you don't ever want to overmix. And so you're paying attention to me mixing these ingredients without any flour in here. So that's super important. So I'm blending the eggs, sugar, and oil with the vanilla. And the other super important part to get that really glossy top is that you are basically dissolving the sugar into the eggs. So if your eggs were room temperature, that would make this process much easier. But that's why you see me mixing for so long. It's because I am doing my best to dissolve the sugar into the eggs. And I'm using organic cane sugar here, so it's a larger granule and it takes longer than your, regular store-bought beet sugar, which is just granulated sugar. But that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm taking so long. Just make sure if you're doing this that you don't add the flour in, because if you're mixing this long, had the flour in there, you're going to overmix it and it's going to taste like biscuits or even worse. I'm also adding in the cocoa powder because it doesn't matter if you mix this in right now or not, so I'm mixing it in while I'm dissolving the sugar. I also wanted to give a shout out to Heather from the Needy Homesteader. You can see her in the bottom corner. I was chatting with her while I was making this. We were chatting back and forth, so you do end up seeing her a little bit with this little cameo. can actually see me pull up a stool here. I'm sitting here talking to Heather while I'm mixing, but this takes a long time, especially if you're making a quadruple batch like I was, and especially if your eggs are cold like mine were. So mine came out of the fridge. If I had planned this better, I would have had room temperature eggs, which would have made the sugar dissolve easier. At some point, you might see me touch my fingers into this batter because I'm feeling to feel if it still feels grainy, which tells me whether or not the sugar has fully dissolved. I don't think I was fully successful in getting this to fully dissolve, but it was still really good. Also, I mean to say that this is a fudgy brownie recipe. If you are making this and you want it to be more cakey, I would bake it all the way. One of the keys to this recipe is that you underbake it slightly. That's very important for this to remain like a fudgy brownie. You can see here, Heather has just yelled at me for making brownies and not filming it. So I grabbed my phone and showed her my camera and then went back to what I was doing. I was actually feeling just now into the batter. I touched my fingers on the batter and rubbed it between my fingers to see if it still felt gritty. You can tell if your sugar has dissolved by the time you can no longer feel the grit. You can see me in that upper corner. When I went to go get the baking soda, my baking powder fell out of my cupboard and landed on the counter and exploded all over me. So it was all over the floor, it was all over my clothes. I can't be trusted to bake in my kitchen. Right now what you can see me doing too is breaking up a couple clumps of baking soda, because there's nothing worse than having tasty brownies and clumps of baking soda. Probably should have put that through a sieve. I think this is probably the key. If you struggle with making brownies from scratch, you want to under mix your brownies. Again, I'm making a quadruple batch, so that's why I'm actually using a mixer here, but if you are using a whisk, you just want to mix until your flour is combined. So you're gonna see me stopping before it kind of even looks like I have mixed it all in, because I'm just going to finish it with my spatula. I do not want to overmix. You do not want tough brownies. As soon as you have finished mixing them in, and again, I've scraped the edges here with my spatula, this would be the perfect time to add in a regular recipe, I would say about a cup of mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. This is what makes this recipe stand out. This is what makes it taste really, really good. There's these little tiny pockets of fudge in them, but right there, you would just fold them in right before you're about to put it into the containers. Now these are going into, as you saw me do, a pre-sprayed pan. You can grease it with coconut oil if you want to. You can use cooking spray. You can use butter if you want to. In this recipe, it's really forgiving with something like that. But we're going to be baking this at 350 degrees. My recipe actually says 20 to 25 minutes in the 8x8 or 9x9. So you want to underbake. For the sake of full transparency here, I'm showing you that I thought I could make some brownie bites. I just got this silicone mini muffin tin for my birthday, and I have been experimenting with what could be fun in it. I know this takes way longer than it should, especially with having 6 kids. Everything that I'm doing, I have to basically do, 4 mini muffin trays full, but I love them, and I like that they're like bite size. All that to say, this was way overfilling the muffin container. This turned out to be a complete fail. I mean, not totally complete because we still ate them and they were good, but this is not how to do it. So I would say fill it halfway, that's about it. And anyway, I will leave a link below for any of the things that you see me using here in this video so that you can try them yourself. My favorite way to eat these brownies, again, I have been making this recipe for over 10 years now, maybe closer to 12, and my favorite way to eat these brownies is fudgy and thick. And the best way to do that is by baking them in a 13x9 pan and tripling the recipe. So I don't know the exact amount that I ended up getting into this pan, but I would say a double at least or a triple recipe is the best way to put this in a 13x9 pan. But you can now still see me wiping myself off because I got filthy. Okay, again, I'm going to remind you that the key to success with this brownie recipe is that it is slightly under-baked. So you want to see that the edges are set, the edges are baked, and you can kind of see that jiggle in the middle there. Can you see that? That's when it's just about done. It's going to fall, but it's going to be good. And now I'm showing you that I have clearly failed on these mini muffins. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you subscribe, and we'll see you real soon.